Hey, friends, welcome to the Mindset Podcast. I am your host, Sally Allen, and today we are going to talk about something that leaders avoid like a plague. Yes, like the flu. We're going to talk about vulnerability and why vulnerability matters. Brene Brown has done so much research and speaking on this topic, and she has proven that while leaders are still resisting being vulnerable, it is not a weakness. It is courage in action. And that's where you show people that you are human instead of pretending like you have it all together 24/7. The problem is in leadership, trying to look perfect all the time isn't strength. It is straight up trust killer. And today I'm going to unpack exactly why vulnerability is actually a competitive advantage, especially for leaders, and how you can use it without oversharing or losing credibility. That is the key, not to overshare and not to lose credibility. So let's dive into it. Listen, vulnerability builds trust faster than perfection ever would. People follow leaders they trust, not leaders who look flawless. When you show them you don't have all the answers, it makes them more willing to be honest with you. Now, a lot of research shows that teams are more innovative, more engaged when leaders create psychological safety. And psychological safety start with leaders' willingness, your willingness to admit mistakes or if you're uncertain about something. It signals that it's okay to speak up. It signals it's okay to take risk and fail forward. Teams that trust their leaders just don't work harder. They collaborate, they share information, and they recover from setbacks more quickly. A leader who hides behind a wall of perfection sends the message that mistakes are dangerous. A leader who admits that they are learning with the team sends the opposite message. They're saying that mistakes are part of growth. And here's the thing, your team already knows that you're not perfect. So pretending otherwise is just bad acting. And bad acting is exhausting. So, point two, vulnerability strengthens connection, and connection fuels performance. In the workplace, connection is the currency that makes people go above and beyond. John Maxwell says you have to touch a hand before you touch a heart. And when the leader drops the facade and engage on real human level, that's when people feel seen and valued and heard, and that's what drives commitment. There's a Gallup data that shows that employees who feels connected to their leaders are 70% less likely to burn out and 59% less likely to look for another job. Vulnerability is a fast track to connection. And when you share challenges you've navigated, even if it's brief, it bridges the gap between the boss and the person or the employee. People won't go the extra mile for someone who feels cold or unapproachable. They give the bare minimum. So if you say you have open door policy, practice open door policy because you want people to see you as human, because then they will give you the energy and the idea and the loyalty. Listen, the connection doesn't mean being everyone's best friend. That's impossible. It means being relatable enough so people can trust you with their best work. Now, vulnerability also turns feedback into a two-way street. Leaders who model vulnerability open the door for honest, useful feedback. And it goes both ways, right? It's a give and take. So instead of your team sugarcoating everything or telling you what they think you want to hear, they feel safe to tell you what you actually need to hear. Now, that means you can adjust quicker, you can avoid blind spots, and you can solve problems before they snowball. It also sets the expectation that feedback is shared responsibility, not a one direction performance review. And here's the bonus: vulnerability makes you more coachable and your team more coachable. Leaders who admit that they don't have every answer and that they are willing to learn and they are willing to adapt and improve. That humility inspires the behavior of the team. It goes so much deeper than what you are doing and saying. This isn't about fishing for compliments or confessions. It's about creating a real feedback loop that keeps everyone improving without the fear of repercussions. Now, here's the last point: vulnerability fuels courage and resilience in the entire team. When a leader admit they're nervous before a big pitch or they struggle through setback, it doesn't make the team lose confidence in that leader. It makes them think, hey, John, if you can be real about it, I can too. And I will speak up more in the future. That is contagious resilience. Vulnerability removes the pressure to perform perfectly and replaces it with freedom to perform authentically and be your true self. Listen, when it's normalized, people stop wasting time hiding behind their challenges and start channeling that energy into problem solving. It creates a culture where people are willing to try and fail and adapt and try again, which is exactly what high performance teams do. Listen, there's so many research that shows vulnerability is one of the foundation of high performing teams. When you demonstrate openness, it increases adaptability during periods of change. In other words, vulnerability just doesn't help in good times. It is a critical tool when leaders when the pressure is on. Now listen, let's land this plane. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's a leadership multiplier. Here's why it wins. It builds trust faster than perfection ever could. It strengthens connection, and connection fuels performance. It turns feedback into a two-way street, and it fuels courage and resilience in your entire team that could funnel down to the entire organization. So when you lead with openness, when you give people permission to show up fully, that's where the beauty is. And when people show up fully, you get innovation, loyalty, and results. Listen, friends, that's a wrap for today's episode. If this episode sparked something inside you, share it with a friend or come hang out with me on YouTube and Instagram. See below for more details. And remember, if you change your mindset, you can change your life. Have an amazing day. See you in the next episode.